Thanks for buying my book. Here you go. Happy Dogman Learning. Thank you so much. I'm such a big fan of all the content that you've been making. Could you possibly, I don't know, write me a note and sign this book for me? Of course. You know that this signature and message will make this book unique and therefore non-fungible. Ah, that's right. With this personalized note, I don't even know how to value it now. It's definitely worth more than 2 cups of coffee. What if I resell this book with the signature and your note? Will I get royalty for having ownership or claiming ownership of the book first? Well, yes, as long as you can mint the asset. How can you know, and how can you keep track of all of the transactions being made in the secondary market? This book will then become what's called an NFT, or non-fungible token, which means that it's an asset that's backed by the Ethereum blockchain, which means that you will always have a true ledger of all of the transactions made with this book. What do you mean by true? Because it's a blockchain, there are several people that are keeping track of the transactions and keeping it up to date, meaning that there's always a true account for all of the transactions being made of all of the resales. Ah, that makes sense now. Thank you for explaining that to me. Hey friends, welcome to another installment of Zoe talks about her opinions when no one really asks her about it. NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, as it relates to books, because most recently I have had the experience and privilege to publish my own book. Possibly like the worst nightmare because I was just not prepared. I didn't know anyone else who published a book, so I didn't have anyone to turn to. And so February 1st, imagine this, February 1st, I first published my book through Amazon, paperback and ebook copy after months of writing the book. I also agreed with Amazon that they would be able to do expanded distribution, meaning that they could distribute the book through Barnes & Nobles and Books A Million. And so the next day, as I was browsing through Google, because I was looking to optimize my search, and I was looking to what people see on the first page of Google when they search Unlearn Dogma. When I did the search on my own, Unlearn Dogma, I saw that the book was also available on eBay, and I was scratching my head. I had no idea, and I was kind of freaking out at this point because I was like, is this like a lot of things are going on in my head, and I was thinking, is this piracy? Are they reselling this without my permission? Should they be getting permission from me? Should I be getting royalties? And on and on. I had so many questions, and I went onto a Googling rabbit hole of what had happened. And then I realized after reading royalty and intellectual property laws that the author is actually only entitled royalty from the first sale. So someone can flip books. If they're in the business of flipping books, they could theoretically get a book from Amazon and then resell it on eBay, or kind of these what they call secondary markets, and resell it for $1 to $2 more. And the author is not entitled to any royalty because you already get your royalty cut from the first sale when they first got the book from Amazon. So they are completely entitled with the profit that they make in flipping the sale, of adding the $1 to $2 profit from it and selling it on eBay. It got me thinking about how we could possibly start to use the NFT technology with books, meaning that somehow we can make each copy of the book unique and tokenize it so that we can track the metadata from the book when the book starts to get published and distributed. Somehow, if we can consider a book unique, we could possibly bring more money in for the author or the writer for every resale, or you could keep track of all of the transactions that were made after the first sale. You know how map creators create kind of like a physical map, like a what are they calling? What do they call it? I don't know. I'm gonna search it. Like the not the globe, but like the flat map. I forgot. Map creators create these paper towns. Paper towns are essentially fake cities that they put in every map to classify that the map is theirs and that's the map that they made. So they would typically...
Here. There's Roscoe, and then right above Roscoe is Rockland, New York. And then right above that is the tiny town of Agloe, New York. Agloe, New York is very famous to cartographers because it's a paper town. It's also known as a copyright trap. Map makers, because my map of New York and your map of New York are going to look very similar on account of the shape of New York, often map makers will insert fake places onto their maps in
kind of create a fake city or a town in a map and then put that in the map, kind of the unique paper town that that author has put into the map. You know who made it. They would also know which maps are theirs. Potentially we could even make books unique in that way, where authors and writers could maybe create like paper towns. Okay, so riddle me this. What that means for books is that you could actually tokenize each copy of the book and consider it as a unique asset. You can start to collect kind of all the metadata that a digital asset produces and keep track of the movement of that asset across many other additional transactions. Original owner of the asset buys the book first on Amazon and then decides to resell it for 5x the amount that they paid for it, because they're in the business of flipping books. The person who then bought the book from them then resells it to another person, and then more and more and more. You start to do exclusive distribution of books. Say it's Harry Potter and there's only 5 copies, where J.K. Rowling has written a private note, maybe like secret messages to her fans, and it's maybe like a scavenger hunt. Like she's putting like secret messages to like all 10 of these books, and there's only like every copy is very unique because each book has a different secret message. Say it's like a scavenger hunt, and all fans of J.K. Rowling are now kind of on this hunt to complete the message, because the secret messages are scattered across all of those 10 copies or 10 unique assets of the copy of the Harry Potter book. And say that could be like an application of books, is somehow if you can make the asset unique, and in that way like every copy is not the same, you can start to call the asset non-fungible, essentially meaning that you can't just exchange it. It's not interchangeable. It's not the same when you exchange it. If it's a book that has a unique signature from the author and a personalized note, how can you value that? How can you exchange like $12 worth of money for that asset now? Doesn't it becomes just so much more valuable that it's hard to kind of interchange it or get another copy of it? What if I just take a photo of it, of that secret message, and then claim it as mine? Like, would that still work? Like, does that mean that I also have ownership of the book? No. So it's kind of the prototypical example that a lot of people in the NFT world talks about is sort of the Mona Lisa in the Louvre. There's only one Mona Lisa, and the owner of that Mona Lisa will be the person who pays a ton of money from the auction to actually own that piece of Mona Lisa. But other people who are going to the Louvre or visiting the museum may very well just like take photos, and they have their own like snapshot of the Mona Lisa, but they're not the owner. So that's a way to think about it as well. This technology can impact so many different industries, and it can even change our laws. Like, for example, our intellectual property laws, and how artists or authors and writers get royalty, and as well as our piracy laws, how we might be able to keep track of piracy and people pirating assets like movies, books, etc. So it has, I think it has tremendous potential and many different applications. I'm crediting this analogy from Ali Abdaal because I learned this first from him, and it actually made a complete sense to me when he was explaining it in this way. The way I think about this blockchain technology and kind of smart contracts is, for example, let's say I go to Lake Tahoe with friends, and in this case we agree to split the bills, including gas because we're going to be driving up there, or the Airbnb of the place that we're going to be staying at, and as well as any additional grocery items or anything like that. This is the situation. I am the complete nerd in the group, and I like keeping track of all the transactions in a spreadsheet. I'm like the spreadsheet friend in this friend group, and I was tasked to keep track of every single transaction that we were making during the trip, and then keep track of who's paying who. And in this case, when you start to use smart contracts or blockchain technology in this regard, instead of me, just the super nerd in the group who is the spreadsheet guru, keeps track of everything, now you're kind of empowering everyone to be the spreadsheet guru of the entire group, and have everyone keep track of every transaction that is being made in that trip. I don't know, what do you guys think? Do you think that books could be tokenized and put on an NFT? I think a lot of assets could be. This is just the start of this revolution, I think. And a lot of people are really bullish about it, and I am too, especially being someone in tech and kind of like a content creator. I'm really excited about the promise of NFTs, especially for assets, and I'm excited to see where it goes.